Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Allie, and today is going to be one of many end of the year videos where I am trying to catch up on bookish goals. So I keep a book journal. It's kind of like a lifestyle, bookish, horror, hobby, whatever journal. Like there's a bunch of different things in here. Like I do kind of like scrapbook pages of like me and my family. I write in it, past readathons, all kinds of stuff. I'm planning on, for the first time ever, doing a full flip through for the end of the year or for January. So hold on for that. But one of the things that I have in here for my bookish goals is this is where I really keep like a bunch of my book clubs that I like to participate in. And over the years, I've dwindled it down to where I am officially participating in only 4 book clubs, potentially only 3 next year. I haven't made my mind up yet. But the reason being is I find myself at the end of the year, every year, being like, I can't keep up. I have so many books that I want to get to throughout the year that my book clubs kind of take the back burner. And then, you know, when you go through like 3-4 month depression and don't read anything during that time, that takes a big chunk out of your year too. So it leaves me kind of struggling at the end of the year, being like, I can't ever complete my bookish goals because I'm doing too much. So this video is more so a let's check some more books off, but I'm also going to be highlighting these 4 amazing book clubs and the people behind them who I've really, really enjoyed. Although I don't always keep up, although I don't always make it to live shows, I try in my way to read them when I can, even if they're not in that month. And it's something that I am going to strive to be better about in 2026. But as of now, I'm just a girl and this is where I'm at. So the whole concept of this video is going to be shouting out these book clubs, showing you guys my progress with them for 2025, which ones I haven't read yet, and ultimately tackling one of the books for each one in this vlog. And today we're starting with the Literally Dead book club. This is hosted by Kayla, Books and Lala here on YouTube, and I believe Instagram as well. I think that's her handle on Instagram. Both are incredible. Her Instagram posts are amazing, very aesthetically pleasing, and her channel is honestly my favorite. I don't miss a single video. I watch every single one of her videos, and I'm always super inspired by her creativity with each vlog and how much thought and work goes into the process of each one of her vlogs. They are so entertaining. I highly recommend, but I'm sure if you are tuning in here, I'm sure you've already seen Books and Lala. This is my journal page for, here we go. This is my journal page for the Literally Dead book club. Don't mind my bookmark from where I left off much later on in my journal, where I'm currently at my journal. I had one of the like strings, you know, that you bookmark with, but my cat literally ripped it out. So a green sticky note it is. There is actually quite a few that I haven't gotten to. As of right now, it is a February through November book club. For February, it was Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. I gave it 5 stars. I loved it. For March, You Are Fatally Invited by Andy Plago. You know, I learned how to pronounce it from that video that I did. I did a whole video with thriller books, and I've already feel like I'm butchering the name. But I gave it a 5 star. It's probably the first 5-star thriller I've had in quite a while, if not a couple years. In April, we have our first contender, which is The Inheritance by Trisha Kalecha, if I'm seeing that correctly. This is a new to me author, so I have not read anything from her before. Our next contender is one that is highly, highly up there on my TBR that I'm like, I have to read for 2025. So I feel like it's gonna be this one, but that is Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zeng by Kylie Lee Baker. Not only did I get this from NetGalley, yikes, and didn't read it. It was during a really hard time of the year for me, so don't mind me. Not just that, it's really up there on my radar. Like, it's been so intriguing ever since I first read the synopsis and put it on my 25 and 2025. So it's a high contender. I also need to get to Eat the Ones You Love by Sarah Maria Griffin. But I'm kind of like, ooh, because now I'm seeing like what people thought about it from Literally Dead Book Club. Like, their ratings were a lot lower on it than I expected. So I'm kind of like, it's one I'm still obviously going to keep on my TBR, but maybe not this video. Two more thrillers I have not gotten to is Riley Sager's With a Vengeance. Riley Sager's so hit or miss for me. And then Julie Chan is Dead by Zeng, I think is what that says. I've actually seen really good reviews of that one, so I am kind of excited and interested in that one. I did read both Killer on the Road and The Babysitter Lives from Stephen Graham Jones, and might be an unpopular opinion, but I gave both of them 5 stars. I really loved them. And then the very end of the year, we have The Treasure Hunters Club by Tom Ryan. Sorry, these pictures are so tiny that like, this is my only reference right now that I'm looking at. But that was the October pick. And then the November pick is the last one for the year, and it's Futility by Nuzo Ono, or Ono, which I am so excited to get to at some point. Obviously, there's a lot going on there that I have not gotten to. You can see where like thrillers just really haven't been doing it for me. I feel like I'm just now actually, funny enough, getting in the mindset of like wanting to pick up some thrillers before the end of the year. And it might be some of these, but not this video. For this video, I'm going to be reading Bat Eaters and Other Names for Cora Zeng by Kylie Lee Baker. I got this from NetGalley. Again, big oops. But I also got this from Aardvark. This is the Aardvark edition, and it is just, oh my gosh, the cover is so stunning. And the colors for this all together, that blue with these actually like is so pretty. Cora Zeng is a crime scene cleaner, washing away the remains of brutal murders and unalivings in Chinatown. But none of that seems so terrible when she's already witnessed the most horrific thing possible, her sister Delilah being pushed in front of a train. Before fleeing the scene, the murderer shouted 2 words, "Bat Eater." So the bloody messes don't really bother Cora. She's more bothered by the germs of the subway railing, the bare hands of a stranger, the hidden viruses in every corner, and the bite marks on her coffee table. Of course, ever since Delilah was killed in front of her, Cora can't be sure what's real and what's in her head. She pushes away all feelings and ignores the advice of her aunt to prepare for the Hungry Ghost Festival when the gates of hell open. But she can't ignore the dread in her stomach as she keeps finding bat carcasses at crime scenes, or the scary fact that all of her recent cleanups have been the bodies of East Asian women. As Cora will soon learn, you can't just ignore Hungry Ghost. I'm so excited for this one. I'm mad at myself. This is one that I'm so mad that I've put off for all of this time. So I am going to be diving into this. Definitely check out the Literally Dead Book Club. You can definitely check out Kayla's videos for more information, and hopefully join if you haven't already for the new year. And I believe there's like a discussion in a certain book app that you can like discuss like within chapters. But if not, you read it throughout the month, and then she sets a live show on her YouTube that goes live for everyone, and you can join in there and interact in the live, feed comments and talk about the books then every month. I absolutely love the Literally Dead Book Club. I've joined it for the past few years, but I have found myself having a hard time keeping up with book clubs. So I think it is definitely one I would keep for the new year. I like that for the most part, the stories that we're reading are all horror or horror adjacent in some way. She does try to really mix it up and have sometimes a thriller or sometimes a mystery. But at the end of the day, there's a lot more horror, and I think that's what I've always been looking for like the perfect book club for me. And her picks are always just awesome. They're some of my favorite authors. They're new to me authors. I feel like she really tries to diverse what authors she's bringing in, as well as the people she brings to her live shows to discuss with her. And it's overall just a pretty amazing book club. So go check it out. And I'm going to start Bat Eaters and check in with you guys at some point, and I'll see you then. Hate this, but I don't wanna go home. Focus 2 hours left in your Netflix show. Over attachment, can you even let shit go? Over obsessing about right now, but I think it's the best if we end somehow. I'm sorry. Never knew what you wanted, cause you never told me nothing. Love you if you want it, you can kill me if I'm bluffing. Would you love me for the rest of my days if you knew every time I lie just by the
Hello everybody, welcome to the Literally Just Book Club live show for the month of May. We're talking about Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zeng by Kylie B. Baker.
Don't need to be one. Hello you guys, I thought I would check in for a minute to wrap up my thoughts, because it's been a couple of days on Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zeng, and while I'm at it, jump into the next book club. So something I don't think I mentioned before is that Kayla also does the buzzword challenge every year. This year she did not only the buzzword but also the buzzword cover, and you guys probably seen in the B-roll, I had so much fun filling out the rest of mine. I honestly didn't think I would have finished it already in November. I thought like December, this would be part of like my crunch time, like trying to finish out book challenges. But I don't do it the way that you are, I guess, supposed to do it. I just never... I'm horrible. Like, I'm more of like a mood reader than a set TBR. I've gotten better, so maybe next year I can plan more accordingly. But for the past couple of years that I've done the buzzword, I just kind of fit it in whenever I can. I don't look at it as like January, February, March, because I just know that's unrealistic for my reading. So yeah, I just fill it in when I can, and I try to not double up as much as possible, but I think that there's ended up only being one double. I used the Bog Wife for water words and foliage, so on 2 different challenges. But besides that, they're all different books that I read this year. And I created this page, or these pages, way back the beginning of the year when I started my journal. And it might be kind of hard to tell, but I actually painted all of this. So I painted the blue page and the black page. And then, I mean, I think you can tell with how horrible my handwriting is, but all of the little symbols that she created on her templates, I then drew them, hand drew them, and made them into stickers to put in my journal. I love how it turned out. And I'm excited that that's already in November a bookish goal of mine that I am being able to check off the list. Now, Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zeng. I struggled with this one after I finished it, because I agree. I went back and I watched the live show, and I agreed. I was landing at that time at a 4. And it's a weird feeling of being like, I don't know if this is a full 5 for me. It feels like it's not a 5, but not knowing why. And the more that I listened to them and the more that like I was getting my thoughts together to talk to you guys, I honestly think it's lifted my rating, because I feel like there's no reason for me to not give this a 5 in my personal opinion. Like, with what I enjoy out of books, I feel like this is a 5. I don't think it's gonna be a top contender for like my favorite books of the year, but I don't know. I'm just to a point to where I don't think that I could not give this a 5. This, like I mentioned before, follows Cora, and she's not only had this tragic event with watching her sister die to a hate crime, but also she sees it every single day in her work with cleaning up these crime scenes of other East Asia women. while this is a horror story, it is real life horror because the same hate crime was happening in the time of 2020 with COVID, and people were being called these slurs and these horrible things, and the fingers being pointed at them when they literally had nothing to do, obviously, with what was going on. It's ridiculous anyways, but to even think for a second, I sometimes I think because of the way I was raised and the people that I had to suffer with around me and where I live, the mindset of some of these people of being so close-minded and small-minded that they think because of a mistake of one person, regardless of if that's the case or not, that to target any person who they think is on the same level or just because they have similar appearances or race or whatever, that makes sense. It's just one of those things that keep you up at night, and just you will never fully wrap your brain around it. And I'm like, why am I even trying to even think about this? It is mind-blowing. But the fact that it actually did happen is the real-life horror that is intertwined in this story. It is devastating and heart-wrenching, and all of these attacks are just so vile, and that it already gets a high rating for me. The writing, I think, was wonderful. I loved it. I do kind of feel like our characters are a little bit more at arm's length for us, but I feel like we did get to dive into Cora a little bit more to see her side struggling with OCD and having that dynamic of she's going and cleaning up these most goriest, gross, grotesque scenes, and then going home and tidying up and washing her hands a lot, and it is wild. And I do agree, it sounds weird, it sounds silly, she wouldn't be able to, but the form of OCD that I feel like I struggle with is borderline that. I'm very particular at my house when it comes to certain things, and when they're not done a certain way. Right now, my bedroom is not completely tidy, and it stresses me out. That when I go to somebody else's house, I couldn't care less, what it looks like, So, I feel like I related with her so much because it's I know that feeling of when it's yourself or when it's your things or whatever, it's it has to be a certain way. And when it's everybody else, it's just, you kind of just go on with life. It's weird, but it's I honestly do prefer it because I never want anybody else to feel weird. I already have friends that are just why is your house so clean? And I'm because if it's not, I will spiral. Also, 9 times out of 10, it's not clean, and I am spiraling because I'm trying to clean up after everybody. Anyways, I really liked that OCD, cleanliness, and just what goes into not only being, it's not really the cleanliness as much as it is the obsessiveness to do a certain thing or to have a thing a certain way. I like that representation in this a lot. Besides how heartbreaking these horror moments were, I loved how she wrote them. They were very jarring. The body horror, just everything. How the horror was written was phenomenal. And that is why the more I thought about that and just everything that I've mentioned so far, I cannot walk away without giving this a 5. I just think it's that good. And it is definitely going to be a favorite book of 2025. Maybe not my top ones, but still up there. And I just loved everything about this. And the bats, there's bats everywhere. I actually bookmarked a couple of spots. One, I'm not going to read to you guys because I feel like it is a little spoilery and you guys gotta read it yourself. There's this part where Cora is, in some other personal ways, like myself too, just kind of being a people pleaser and being pushed around, literally having to watch her sister die to a hate crime, but then go and clean up another hate crime over and over and over again. and keeping her mouth shut, and there's constantly reporters and people like questioning about like these things happening, and finally getting to that point where she just snaps, and I'm like, yes, I am living through her. I am thriving right now. They're talking about this certain crime scene where there's no way that the bats got in by themselves. Like, they were placed there to send a message, and this reporter, he says, and you don't think the victim put them there. Cora lets out a sharp laugh. Why? Because it's normal for Chinese people to keep bats for pets. And like the reporter is like backtracking, like, oh, I just meant, and then she's like, because Chinese people like to shove bats down our own throats before blowing our brains out, or paint bat murals on our walls after slitting our own throats with hunting knives, when this whole city, this whole country calls us bat eaters. And it really is like this moment where she just continues to like explode and like really tell her thoughts, and in a way finally let up all of that pent up steam of like, I'm so tired of this. Like, I'm past tired. I'm exhausted that we're still seeing this and other people aren't wrapping their heads around it. Like, why are they not seeing what it is, what it clearly is? Hate crime takes on like this whole is there a serial killer that's going around and taking out all of these women in a protest type of way to say that they are the ones that are responsible. They're no better than the person who started COVID, is like how their brain is working, I guess. Yeah. Anyways, it is a hard one. It is jarring at times and just wow. But if you have it in you, if you're able to, I definitely think it's a check your triggers still, but if you're able to, I definitely would check it out because it was such a great one. Thank you, Kayla, for the amazing book picks every year. I have such a fun time. I don't know if she will even watch this. I probably won't tag any of them because my social anxiety would be through the roof. Fangirling a little bit. I literally, like, when Kayla followed me on Instagram and YouTube, I literally screenshot them and sent them to my sister and was like, oh my god. And so it was definitely a fangirl moment. So I probably won't be tagging any of them. I will definitely probably have their logo in my thumbnail, and then I will definitely link you to them in my description box in a way where you can go check out their book clubs. The same goes for Miss Gabby. Gabby Reads hosts the book troupe as well as amazing readathons. You can actually see, this is my book troupe page. It is so sad, you guys, the amount that I have not crossed off, but this is a little flashback to Winterween. She also hosts Summerween. I unfortunately didn't participate this year. That time of the year is always up in the air for me. It's really busy, so the last, I would say, 3 or 4 years, I've participated every year besides this year. And I was so sad about it. But I do plan on participating again in Winterween, which she's already announced and will be in January, so you have time as well if you guys want to check it out. Her Instagram for that is This Is Summerween, and it has all the details over there. But her book club, I'm not gonna lie, her book club is more on the chopping block for me. I said at the beginning of this video that I'm having a really hard time juggling all of these book clubs. So although these are my favorites, and over the years I've dwindled it down to these 4, this is the one that is, I feel like I love. Like, I want to be a part of the book troupe. But for me personally, with my reading goals, my reading taste, and all of that, Gabby is a huge thriller reader, and so she puts a lot of thrillers in the book troupe, and that worked for me when I first joined the book troupe because I too love thrillers. But I'm going through this time in my life where I rarely pick up a thriller, if at all year long. I'm just now trying to like pick up thrillers that I missed out on this year. So I will be crossing some of these off before the end of the year, but I think sadly it's another year that I'm not going to complete my book troupe reads, and that makes me sad. And going into 2026 with the mindset of wanting to read them within that month so I can catch the live shows and participate more. I just don't see it happening with thrillers because I'm not always in the mood for thrillers. So I don't know. We will see. I want to see how some of these thrillers treat me this end of the year. Maybe I'll fall back in love with them. Maybe I'll be like, yeah, thrillers are just not for me anymore. And then I will just make sure I dedicate my time each year to Summerween and Winterween and the readathons that I really want to be a part of. There's a lot of options here. I did read Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. I gave it a 3. It was just okay for me. I still have to get to Alice Feeney's Beautiful Ugly, Listen to Your Sister by, oh my gosh, I can't even read that. Is it Nina Vale? No, I can't really see it. I knew it was a new to me author. I can't really see it and how small that the words are. Tell Me What You Did by Carter Wilson, Immaculate Conception by Ling Ling Hong, Without a Vengeance, Riley Sager, once again. How to Survive a Horror Story by Mallory Arnold, 13 Months Haunted by Jimmy Giuliano, which I really want to get to, Julie Clark's The Ghostwriter, and she's also announced November and December. I just don't have them in here yet, but I'm excited for those that she did announce. And then When the Wolf Comes Home, which is what I'm leaning towards. It makes sense here to pick a more thrillery book because I need to catch up on my thrillers, but like I've been putting off When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy for so long, and I really want to get to it. So that's what I'm going to do. I do have a video concept where I'm going to be tackling quite a few of these thrillers though, so stay tuned for that. Also have another Aardvark copy because I really wanted my first Nat Cassidy hardback, and I absolutely love this so much. It is so pretty. I have read Mary and Nestlings as well as Rest Stop and a couple of his other short stories through Shortwave Publishing. He is definitely a fave for me, and look at these colors once again. The colors for both of these books were just so stunning. Absolutely love it. And that like soft touch. Oh, I just love Aardvark's books so much. I have already started this. I've made it a little ways in. One night, Jess, a struggling actress, finds a 5-year-old runaway hiding in the bushes outside her apartment. After a violent, bloody encounter with the boy's father, she and the boy find themselves running for their lives. As they attempt to evade the boy's increasingly desperate father, horrifying incidents of butchery follow them. At first, Jess thinks she understands what they are up against, but she's about to learn that there's more to these surreal and grisly events than she could have ever imagined. And that when the wolf finally comes home, no one will be spared. I'm not a big werewolf fan, so this one is definitely going to be more hit or miss for me. There's definitely ones that I love, but yeah, I have found out over the years that I definitely am more team vampire than team werewolf, but it's Nat Cassidy. I am so excited, and I am enjoying it so far. We have met Jess, her job at like this diner, and how she is wanting to become an actress, so she has auditions and stuff to go to, and just kind of her day-to-day life, like the people she surrounds herself with, and we're getting a little bit of her past. Her and her mother don't have the most amazing relationship, and then on top of that, they were notified that her father passed, and for her, it's kind of like this gaping hole in her chest because it's hard as an adult to think back to something that was traumatic in your childhood, like your father leaving you at 6 and never seeing him again, and now finding out that he's no longer on earth and being like, what did I miss out on? There's a lot of daddy issues to unpack there, and the daddy issues in me are like, oh my god, I'm triggered already and trying my best to like keep it together. But I will say, I really like the pacing so far. She has already got this kid. She's protecting him. The father is coming after them. It's been very gruesome and grisly and just very cutthroat right now. Like, we're just taking out people left and right. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't expect that, especially so soon. But it is a pretty short one. It looks kind of average length here, but I feel like the way the font is and stuff, this is literally less than 300 pages. The font is just very, I don't know, like they're long pages, but at the same time, it just reads really fast. But I'm liking it so far. I have to go pick up Axel from school, so I'm going to bring it with me to parent pickup, and I will check back in with you guys.
Let me spiral in the hall till I'm dead. Was it something that I said? If I wasn't really sorry, I get caught up in my head. You put me in your plans, had to laying in my bed. Reminiscing about the time I wasn't lonely, but I can you waste my time instead? Would you love me for the rest of my days? If you knew every time I lied just by the look on my face. Oh, we had 10 minutes left, so
Okay, hello to all the friends. How are you? Happy May. I hope you're doing well. I am here for the May book club discussion where we read When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy, and I am joined by, ooh, you guys have the different editions.
Me and Steph twin. We're twinning.
I actually like, oh my god, that like red behind. Yeah.
And
That's
can you
really
see
cool.
this? Can you see the silhouette as well?
Ooh,
which
I
is
can.
probably a spoiler. So probably a spoiler.
Yeah, what the heck? Spoilers on the cover? Are you kidding me?
Mhm.
That's cool. I actually really like. Can you see that there's a wolf right here? Like, it took me so long to know
Oh.
that this is a wolf's face.
I would be lying if I said I wasn't sobbing towards the end of this. And definitely with the afterword. This book, oh my gosh. I haven't even had the chance to watch back the live show yet from Gabby, but I'm so excited to and to hear everybody's thoughts on it. I have seen not that many like detailed reviews of this, but more so people just saying like, this is the best from Nat Cassidy, and or people who barely read his work and being like, wow, this was great. I have not seen one negative thing about this book, and now I understand why, which, not gonna lie, it was a 5-star prediction for me because it is Nat Cassidy and I love his work. And although I do feel like some of the style of it is a lot different than Mary and Nestlings, at the same time, at the heart of it, there is so much that are similar. And he even talks about in his afterword how the three of them are about grief that he experienced in his life, and this is kind of his form of therapy of taking that grief and putting it into something. And while Mary was kind of about his mother, Nestlings, I can't remember what he had mentioned, but this obviously is about his father. And although he makes sure to say like there's not a character in here that is his father, there is definitely characteristics and other nods for sure. The spoilery of this story, of trying to review it without spoiling anything, is really hard. What I will say is that you do get this like werewolf, almost like shapeshifter moment. He does thank some people at the end in his afterword and says like where he got some inspiration from, and there was quite a few on that list that I was like, yep, that's what I was thinking while I was reading this. One in particular, but I cannot say what it is because it would be too big of a spoiler for this story. It reads a lot like, although a horror, a thriller. And that's why I can see where this is a perfect pick for the book troupe, because it is definitely, I feel like, in the thriller genre, because it is very fast paced. You're kind of like on the edge of your seat, like wondering what's going to happen next. It's very cutthroat. But there's just so many elements of this, because at the same time you also have this horror sci-fi element, and definitely not what I was expecting. I was actually expecting a little bit more of the horror from a werewolf, but it kind of being a cat and mouse chase, which it is, but it just kind of leaving off there. So it would kind of be like a thriller horror, but there's so much more to this book, and I just loved every bit of it. Also, all of the metaphors with having quote-unquote daddy issues and the different struggles that even in your adulthood you can go through with having those type of issues with either one of your parents. And it was very prominent in the story, and that is what really stuck out for me and what really like made me emotional, because he definitely had me in my feels with my own issues. 5 stars. I love this so much. I think it's going to be up there in my favorite books of the year. It was so good, and I'm just once again amazed by Nat Cassidy and his storytelling, and definitely do not skip on his afterwords when you read his books. They are so meaningful and just amazing. His afterword really goes into his life with his father. He just has a way of, obviously, like, this guy is hurting from the childhood and even adulthood that he had with his father and not being very present in his life, and what he calls a shapeshifter. But at the same time, he writes such a beautiful afterword honoring his father in a way of showing that although there is that, like, anguish there and that hurt, at the same time, you can tell that he loved his father. And that sometimes is such a hard balance of realizing that, yes, even though our fathers are not very present in our life, we love them so much, and that's what is hurting us so bad. And I know that's not everybody's story, and I understand that. This is just what really stuck out for me. But one of the things that I can really relate to that he wrote about was, before I go on, though, let me make something clear. My dad isn't a character in this book. He wasn't a terror. He wasn't abusive. He wasn't an alcoholic. He didn't abandon me, though if you'd asked either of us about that at different periods of our lives, we would have said differently. Despite some superficial details, like our shared love of gin rummy and black licorice, there are very few specific references to my dad in this story. But my dad is everywhere in this book, because my dad was a shapeshifter. He goes on to talk about his father's life, the many lives his father had, which included a doctor, a teacher, a scholar, a politician, a cop, an amateur religious leader, enough life for several lifetimes. My dad was brilliant and funny and fascinating. He was restless, inquisitive, passionate. He was also, for much of my life, mostly a complete stranger. I've never related to something more in my life. Wow. Just wow. I am amazed with this book. And with that, I marked off another book troop pick for my book club reads. And I didn't tend to segue into this next book club. I was actually going to save it for last and savor this story for the rest of my, like, time with this video, because the next one is a short story collection. So I've kind of been savoring stories and just reading a couple each day and filling you guys in on them. We're gonna get into it, but first let's talk about the book club. The book club I'm talking about is In the Void. My sticker right here on the front says, warning, this In the Void book pick will melt if left unread. And I also have a sticker on the back. This is my virtual book club. This is hosted by Sarah. You guys can find her over on Instagram at Voided Lux. And the book club is In the Void Book Club. She has it on Instagram, Patreon. There might be a Discord. I cannot remember for the life of me. She's also on the book club app, and whenever it's meeting time, which is quarterly, which is really nice because having a book club like every month, as we've seen, you fall behind on it. So it's really nice to have a quarterly one, meaning there's 4 book picks a year plus a mini book club. So typically this is done in quarters from January to March, April, June, so on and so forth, where we are to read the books, and then at the end of that quarter, there will be a discussion virtually through Zoom. The picks are always a lot of fun, normally very horror based, and once in a while we get a surprise guest of the actual author joining us for the book meeting, which is so cool. It's happened quite a bit since I've joined, and I just absolutely love it. You can also join the Patreon and get little gifts from her quarterly, like the bookmark to go along with said book, and stickers and other stuff like that. I also just recently got in the mail my Halloween postcard from her. She's so sweet. I absolutely love it. We literally just wrapped quarter 4, and we had author Brian McGauley on discussing his newest Breathe In, Bleed Out. that was a lot of fun. So if you guys haven't checked out this book club yet, you definitely should. Right now, we're voting on what novella we're going to be reading for the mini meeting. Pretty much everybody misses each other from quarter 4 to quarter 1 for the next year. So in between that time, we read a novella, short story, and then we meet on it in January. Kind of like the start of a new year with the book club and just something in between for the holidays. Really good picks. I've already got on and voted for what I hope it will be. And yeah, I'm excited for that. You guys can definitely join in for next year. In my journal, I do my In the Void a little bit differently. I am behind, obviously, or I wouldn't be doing this video. For quarter 1, we read Grady Hendrix's Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. And this was my spread for it. We get like a postcard and like the sticker for quarter 1. And then I even printed off a copy of the bookmark from that one. And then she also takes a picture of all of us and edits it together from the Zoom. Yeah, and then my overall review. This was also my favorite book that I read for that month. So I always do like a dedicated page for that. But I also went and met Grady Hendrix. I have a whole vlog on it if you guys want to check it out. But not only did I meet him in person on his book tour, but I also got to see him again in the virtual for the book club. He's in this photo. It's really hard to see. He is up there at the top. Really hard to see. There he is. And then there I am. I already have my second page for quarter 2 ready, but I am reading this book for another vlog concept. So I wasn't going to read that one. And then quarter 4 was Brian McAuley's, which I've already read. So technically, besides quarter 2, which I'm going to have to catch up on, and I will for that vlog, the only other thing that it leaves me missing is quarter 3, which was Revenge by Yoko Ogawa, I think is how you pronounce that. This is 11 Dark Tales from the author of The Housekeeper and the Professor and Hotel Iris, and it's translated. Sinister forces collide and unite a host of desperate characters in this eerie cycle of interwoven tales from Yoko Ogawa, the critically acclaimed author of The Housekeeper and the Professor. An aspiring writer moves into a new apartment and discovers that her landlady has murdered her husband. Elsewhere, an accomplished surgeon is approached by a cabaret singer whose beautiful appearance bellies the grotesque condition of his heart. And while the surgeon's jealous lover vows to kill him, a violent envy also stirs in the soul of a lonely craftsman. Desire meets with impulse and erupts, attracting the attention of the surgeon's neighbor, who is drawn to a decaying residence that is now home to instruments of human torture. Murderers and mourners, mothers and children, lovers and innocent bystanders, their fates converge in an ominous and darkly beautiful web. Yoko Ogawa's Revenge is a masterclass in the macabre that will haunt you to the last page. All right, don't mind the appearance. I'm currently in parent pickup, so I'm gonna have to make this quick. Currently reading Revenge by Yoko Ogawa. You guys would have just seen the whole like synopsis pitch, if you will. And this is for In the Void book club. In the car right now because I checked my mail before I left, and oh my gosh, you guys. So I subscribed to the book club In the Void through Patreon, and Sarah is just a gem. I didn't know that when I switched cards, I just forgot to update my card. So I missed the whole third quarter, and it was like right after mental health struggle. So like, once again, I am blaming it on that, but she was a gem. I reached out to her and I said, I am so sorry. I did not realize that like I missed that, or that I wasn't subscribed anymore. I resubscribed. So if you have any extra bookmarks from that quarter,
I would love to buy one. And she was like, no, don't worry about it. She was like, I actually seen that you resubscribed and I was going to reach out to you and see if you wanted a bookmark. So I checked the mail today. Not only did I get the bookmark for Revenge, but she also sent this like little door hanger. It says, don't be a pest, I'm reading my In the Void book club book. And then this side, don't be a pest, I'm planning my TBR. It's so cute. I love it. I probably won't be able to use it on any of my doors because my cats will probably shred it. But yeah, and then there's also a sticker that says, don't be a pest, I'm reading. I might actually save this for maybe my journal for next year. It's so cute. And then of course, the bookmark itself, the desires of the human heart know no reason or rules. And then on the back, there's this, which I just read the story that has to do with that. I love it. I'm going to switch over. I actually, where I left off, is actually a past in the Void bookmark. I love them. I love the bookmarks so much. So I was like, I know I'm behind on the book club and I haven't been to a lot of the lives lately, but like, I love your bookmarks so much. And I don't want to miss out. I also got the new bookmark as well. And funny enough, tonight is the live for quarter 4. And although I am slacking and I'm behind on quarter 2 and 3, I'm gonna catch up. I actually am caught up. I read quarter 4 already so that I could join tonight. Look how cool it is. I read Brian McAuley's Breathe In, Bleed Out. My first video for the Halloween-a-thon. So if you guys want to know my thoughts on that book, you guys can go check out that video. But I will be joining the live tonight, and I'm super stoked because Brian McAuley is actually going to be joining the book club as well. It is always so much fun when like the author joins in and, you know, you get to hear the discussion like with them and stuff. It more so it feels like a show than an actual discussion, but there is like a few minutes like beforehand where we get to talk like as a club, although my shy ass just usually sits there and just like, because I just love to hear everybody else's thoughts, but like, I don't know. I feel like I would be better with an in-person book club than a virtual, and that sounds so silly, but like my hands get clammy and I get so like intense and like intimidating on a virtual. Anyways, you guys, today's stories from Revenge. The first one is called Afternoon at the Bakery, and I'm going to be pretty brief with these because they're such short ones. I don't think I'm even going to rate them like I do normal collections, like rating each story, because they are too short. So I'll just rate the collection as a whole at the end. This one is about a mother's grief. This follows a woman who is to the point of obsession in her grief, losing her child. And it starts with her entering a bakery and pretty much spilling her guts to this woman about her child's death. And then the story just continues on the different things that this woman has done because of her obsession with the death and the grief of it. And it was rather sad, but definitely intriguing. The second story was Fruit Juice, and this was about this girl. They're at like, I think like a college campus. This girl goes up to a guy and is just like, will you go to dinner with me tonight? It's not really a dinner I'm wanting to go to. Don't feel bad if you don't want to. And he's like, okay, sure. Like, that's a weird way to ask somebody out, but really it's her mother is in the hospital dying, and she was told that if something was to ever happen to where her mother would be gone and she would need some type of support or financial help, to contact her biological father, who apparently is like very wealthy. And so she brings this like random stranger as like comfort to meet her biological father for the very first time. Wild. And then it just kind of is like this one moment in their life bonds them, that like the rest of the story is about their future, like what became of them, and that night that kind of like bonded them together and makes them think about each other. And then the last one I read for today is Old Mrs. J. This is about this girl who lives in this building, and old Mrs. J is the landlady, and she's very particular, very picky about things. she's up there in age, but like she's obsessed with her garden. And it just talks about like how when she's out in her garden, she's transforms to a different person. Like she seems younger, she seems very energetic and just really happy and stuff. And she'll give her favorite tenants like stuff from her garden. And she's forming this bond with our main character that's kind of weird, like keeping her mail and stuff from her and then just randomly showing up and giving it to her. And it's just like, okay. Yeah, there's a lot of like just really eerie and weird things that happen. But the weirdest of all is these carrots that this woman keeps growing that looks like hands. It was a good time. I think it's been my favorite so far out of the collection. I really liked it. And I am also listening to this through Hoopla, my library app. And when I first started, I was like, this isn't like, I don't know if I can do this. It just didn't sound very crisp, I guess is the right word. But I feel like each story has had a different narrator. So for the most part, they're so short that like if one of them is kind of crackly or like it's like the quality isn't very high. It changes so fast that it's not really bothering me. And I've enjoyed being able to tandem it, not just read it physically. But they are very short stories and I'm only going to be reading a couple a day for you guys. So I'm excited to see where it goes. But we are pulling up now, so I will talk to you guys soon.
I am so ready.
Awesome. Okay, so my first question that I have for you is about, of course, Breathe In, Bleed Out, and how the pacing and pattern of this book follows a slasher. So when you are writing a slasher and you want to ensure that the writing that you're doing is honoring the genre, what is important to you to maintain when you're writing a slasher?
Ooh, great question. Yeah, I mean, pacing is a big part of it. And I think working as a screenwriter for many years, a lot of that background comes into play in the way that I write novels. I'm a big outliner. So I start with like a cork board once I have an idea, in this case, slasher at a wellness retreat. And what are the big set pieces I want to see of like death by yoga. Every one of them kind of was where I started, was placing like death scenes really. And then I kind of reverse engineered some of the characters so that the deaths felt more personal to these characters.
Every check-in might just be at parent pickup at this point. Don't mind the appearance. I literally just did my makeup in the car because I forgot it's Friday and we're trying to make like a family tradition of going out to eat as a family every Friday. So that's what we're doing this afternoon. But I finished 2 more stories in Revenge. The first one was The Little Dustman. And this was about this guy who's on this train full of people. And there's like delay after delay. And he's kind of just sitting there with his thoughts. And it's another story about grief. He just lost the only woman that he's ever called mother. It was like a stepmother of his. He goes back and like is reminiscing about when his father was with her when he was young, and it's weird concepts, weird things going on in the story for sure, but then goes into like what became of her. I thought it was really cool because there was a twist in with this one in one of the last stories that had like the carrot hands, so I thought that was really cool. But yeah, overall it was just another story of grief, but I enjoyed my time with it. And then the next one I'm about to have to pull up, I think was called Lab Coats. And this is about this girl who works at a hospital. Like she works like with surgeons and stuff, but it's a story on obsession. And you guys know how I am about obsession stories. So yeah, I was of course eating it up. I'm gonna have to do this in a minute. I had to pull forward, and it's like that awkward thing at parent pickup where when you pull forward, out of the one lane, it turns into 2 lanes, and then you're pretty much like just next to each other in lanes or in line. So I'm like, this is really awkward. But yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, she works at a hospital, and there's like talk about like different surgeons and like who they need for certain areas, and like, yeah, different areas of the hospital. It doesn't really have anything to do with it besides just knowing the setting. These are people that work in a hospital with surgeons and stuff like that. But she's like this one girl in particular. And it's
an obsession story. Like, she's obsessed with this woman and she's talking about this woman's life and how she just loves to hear her talk, and this lady starts spilling her guts about like some deep dark secret, and I loved where it went. It was so unhinged. It's so short, but like unhinged. And what I absolutely love from stories like this, like certain collections, I just read one from Sayaka Murata. She did the life ceremony, and then I just read the novel Earthlings from her. And don't get me wrong, like I love how unhinged and just weird and different it is, but I don't have like super high ratings with those because there's so many like really elements to them, where this is giving me the same vibes, but like in the direction I really, really like. Like, I'm loving this so far, and I'm excited to pick it up every single day. I kind of don't even want to put it down. But I will see you guys tomorrow with my next 2 stories. My check-in for my next 2, don't mind the lighting. Didn't have time to film today, and I have lost all natural lighting, so I'm sitting at my desk with my lamp that loves to flicker. So yeah, it is what it is. But I have a couple stories to run through with you really quick. So the next one was Sewing for the Heart. This is about this guy who, I believe he like works in the hospital. There wasn't really a whole lot of talk about it besides the fact that like he has a pet hamster that he like takes care of. Maybe he just like wanders the hospital a lot. But anyways, he meets this woman who is asking him to make this certain bag. So like he sews bags and stuff. And she says, I need it for a heart. And I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be unhinged. But really, she was born with her heart on the outside of her body. And so she is tasking him to come up with the type of material to hold her heart in place outside of her body. It's really interesting. Some of these stories are, I feel like the horror part of it is just that it is strange and weird. It's not necessarily like in-your-face horror, but it's more so, I will never read another story like this. And there's just very weird moments and elements of the story, and the like obsession is really like a focus in these stories, because this guy like starts becoming like obsessed with making this bag for her and obsessed with her beating heart outside of her chest, and it just is so unhinged. It was a good time. That one was a little bit longer than some of the other ones. Then we had Welcome to the Museum of Torture. And just like a previous story, this one had nods to the last one, the Sewing for the Heart. It's a spoiler, so I can't say what it is, but our main character, she automatically says something about something that happened in the previous story, and then later she even goes on to say more about that story. But in this story, it was kind of weird. Like, she talks about like a lot of stuff dying in the city, and like it's just kind of bleak. And then she finds herself at this museum and finds out that it's a museum of torture, and they're literally talking and showing her different like torture devices and how they were used. And it definitely is weird and different. I kept thinking, like, what's gonna happen? Like, which one of these are gonna be used? No, it was just very, again, it's another one that I just like, I don't think I'll ever read another story like this, but it was very intriguing. And I know that there's the actual museums out there with these devices and stuff that you can go and tour. So it was just kind of interesting, kind of getting a little bit of the history on some of them, or how they were used. And that is kind of the creepy horror part of it, is just that they're just wild. But yeah, that's my check-in for today. I'm going to read a couple more, and I will check in with you guys tomorrow. Since I left you guys, I have finished off the last 4 stories. I read 2 of them last night and then 2 of them this morning. So I'm ready to actually wrap up this whole collection. I left you guys off with The Man Who Sold Braces. This is about a weird uncle. Do we all have a weird uncle? Ultimately, this is another story that focuses on grief, as this boy or man is finding out that his uncle has died in his home that is pretty much a hoarder's home. It's a very devastating death, and this man goes back to like his boyhood and is like pretty much explaining who his uncle was in his life. His uncle wasn't the most liked, but nonetheless family, and how he adapted through his childhood with him up until his adulthood, his last visit with him. It's sad, it's weird, and it gets dark. The last hour of the Bengal tiger, is that how you say that? Or Bengal tiger? I don't really know what was going on with this story. It's very short, and it starts with this woman driving, and she's kind of just talking about her life. I think something to do with her husband, and then she was talking about somebody who works with her husband. And it's almost just like a continuation of spiraling thoughts, and ends with her getting to a park, or pulling over at a park, and there's a man holding a tiger who is dying. I feel like there's a lot of metaphors here, some of which I think I missed. I know that there was some dark, triggering thoughts that I think had some metaphors here on life in general, and like taking your life. But besides that, I was just ultimately kind of confused with this one. There was this scene of like when it first started, she's driving and there's this talk about this truck like dropping tomatoes and her like hitting them with her car. And I say that because the next story is Tomatoes and the Full Moon. And this one links into that one. There's talk about that truck and the tomatoes. This one is about this really awkward interaction with this woman. This guy is just like trying to have his dinner, and she like walks up to him and like pretty much offers tomatoes, and she's like giving him like tomato after tomato, and he's like trying to hurry and finish his food because he's like, this is so awkward, like I need to get out of here. And she keeps giving him the tomatoes, and come to find out it was from that tomato truck that like crashed or whatever. I don't know. It was just a funny little like nod to the previous story. But the rest of the story is just so odd. Like his day-to-day life that he's living, she just keeps popping up. And it's just like this random lady. Like one of them is like his daily swim, and she like cheers him on from the side of the pool. Like it's so funny, but like eerie at the same time, because it's like, who is she? And lastly, we have Poison Plants. This one was another little strange one, pretty short too. Ultimately, we get the idea that this is a friends with benefits type of ordeal, but like not sexual. We have this elderly, wealthy lady who is offering to pay this man's college as long as he comes to her house and dines with her, reads to her, plays music for her, spends time with her, and she is lusting over him. And it just goes in a direction of just jealousy and kind of the consequences of agreeing to terms on something like that. And yeah, that's the story. Which leaves me to the end of all 11 tales. Yes, dark. I know I've mentioned it already in one of these sections, but this is what I'm looking for when I'm thinking of like translated horror. I think I did forget to mention that this is translated by Stephen Snyder. I also had the audiobook through Hoopla, and I enjoyed it. I do feel like the stories got better as I went, like the quality seemed to get better as I went. But they all read very fast and very intriguing and just weird. I like that she doesn't really settle on something for too long to bore you. Like it's very fast paced, because some stories would start and I'm like, I don't know if I'm really gonna be interested in a story with this type of setup, but she moved so fast that like I never got bored. I was intrigued, or something would happen that would be just so weird. I'm like, what? That it would just like draw me, just keep me drawn in. I really enjoyed it. I feel like, once again, for this type of like translated horror, I feel like they're always so hit or miss, because sometimes they can teeter off to be a little bit boring, or the horror elements are just really strange and weird, which I like. I feel like this is strange and weird. Yes, there's horror elements. I wouldn't say this is like extremely scary. Some of it is just real life horror, and others are just like doesn't make much sense, but like I'm here for the strange and unusual vibes. I had a really good time with it. I don't think I'm landing at a perfect 5, although it is super interesting and such a quick little fast paced book of short stories, but I think I would land more at a 4, but a high 4. I really enjoyed this, and I definitely will be picking up more from Yoko Ogawa. I'm so just intrigued. I had the same feelings with this one like I did from like Life Ceremony by Sayaka Murata, I think is her name. But I found that these worked for me a lot more, like writing style and pacing, than the other.
Sorry about that text you got, I didn't ever mean to send it.
The very last book club that I want to shout out because I absolutely adore it is Elizabeth's. Her YouTube channel is Reading Riley, and her book club is called The Midnight Society. And I think I've been a part of the Midnight Society since it first became a thing. On here it says, on like the little logo, it says 2023. I'm pretty sure I've been a part of it since then. Have I completed every year? No. Do I miss most live shows? Absolutely. But what I love about the Midnight Society and Elizabeth in general is the book picks are always like, I feel like pretty unique compared to the other book clubs that I follow. Kind of like the same vibe as In the Void, where we have horror, but like also like horror adjacent things. We see a lot more like feminine rage, which is one of my favorites over here. And just on top of that, just, I don't know, I feel like it's really like my treasure chest type of vibe with this book club. Like you really don't know like what you're going to get. Elizabeth is also a big thriller fan as well. But I like that with her book club, it's a little bit more toned down on the thrillers. It's not super heavy on thrillers, but usually there is like 1 or 2. Now, this year, I believe, is the first year that she has switched to bi-monthly, which is also, again, like I've mentioned in the last clips, kind of nice because a monthly, like an every month book club, it gets very overwhelming, and I seem to really fall behind on those. Where the style that she's doing this year is really, really nice. Not just that, but she kickstarted it in January with Rest Stop, which is a horror novella from Nat Cassidy. I loved it. I did give it a 4-star. And then we had Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix for March, which I gave 5 stars. And what was nice about that was I love when my book clubs like overlap each other, and this was like the same time. So not only did I read it for the Midnight Society, but I also read it for In the Void. As you can see, I have slacked the rest of the year on my Midnight Society books, but I will say it's not because of the picks, because The Unworthy, We Love You Bunny, and even I think Immaculate Conception. Yeah, they are all on my 25 and 2025. So the picks, amazing. And like the rest, I will have her channel and Instagram down below for you guys. Definitely check it out, even if you want to join in for the new year, because we are on the last pick for the year in November. So I'm currently reading The Unworthy and We Love You Bunny for 2 other videos. I have another idea for Immaculate Conception that I think I will just throw in that video. So that leaves us with the one that's left over, which is actually the thriller, which means this video has kind of been all over the place. I feel like we've been able to dabble into a lot genre-wise, and even like format, with a horror and then like a horror thriller vibe, a short story collection, and now a thriller. If you couldn't see it from my journal. This is We Are All Guilty Here by Karin Slaughter. I actually do have quite a few Karin Slaughter books. I'm trying to work through some of her past series, but this is a brand new series that she's bringing out, and this is kind of going to be a taste test for me to see if this is a series of hers that I want to continue, meaning I have not bought the book. The series is going to be called North Falls, and this is number 1, obviously. I did put a hold on it for my library, but I was like, so, like, the wait list is insane. So I was like, yeah, that's probably not going to happen in time. So I did borrow the audiobook, or bought the audiobook with the credit through Everend, and that's how I'm going to be reading this one. Ooh, it was chosen as a nominee for Favorite Mystery and Thriller this year. Welcome to North Falls, a small town where everyone knows everyone. Or so they think. Until the night of the fireworks, when 2 teenage girls vanish and the town ignites. For Officer Emmy Clifton, it's personal. She's turned away when her best friend's daughter needed help, and now she must bring her home. But as Emmy combs through the puzzle the girls left behind, she realizes she never really knew them. Nobody did. Every teenage girl has secrets, but who would kill for them? And what else is the town hiding? I feel like Karin Slaughter books are very cliche in a way when it comes to detective, whodunit, series-wise. I like that her series, all of her books can be read as standalones, although you do get insight into like these characters' lives, and obviously this Emmy we're probably going to follow throughout the series. And I'm liking Emmy so far. I have started it and I'm hoping to either finish it throughout today or tomorrow. The vibe is nice. I actually really do enjoy Karin Slaughter's writing. I sometimes just find it hard to stick with because of the characters. I've been working on the Grant County series so that I can get to the Will Trent series because they're like, it's like a continuation. And it's been kind of hard. Like there's characters that I do like, but at the same time at like arm's length because they're so different and than like my typical like favorite characters. But like I want to know the progression and like the character development over time to get to the Will Trent series, which I hear is incredible. Where with this one, I can definitely see like the buildup of this series, like getting it going. And like Karin Slaughter fashion, right smack at the beginning is when it goes down. These 2 girls are kidnapped, like hurt, injured, and kidnapped from almost kind of like the vibe that I was getting was kind of like a fairground type of ordeal. Like they were there to see the fireworks for the 4th. And it's very summer vibes. I kind of am kicking myself for not picking it up earlier in the year. But yeah, these girls are taken, and I think the hardest part that I'm having is jumping from these girls, or one of them, were like in her POV, like when it happens. We just don't know who took them, but like being in her mind and then jumping into being like an Emmy, this officer who is, or detective, whoever who is taking on the case, she's supposed to be much older than these girls, yet the way that she talks and the way that, I don't know, just how she is, she seems so much younger that it took me a minute to be like, oh, this is the detective that we're following now. Like, I thought maybe she was like a friend of theirs, and come to find out she's friends with the mother of one of them, and it just seemed very like, I don't know, like it took a little bit of adjusting. I think also reading an audiobook, the hard part with not like having the physical to like tandem read it is I'm going to be horrible with names, you guys, and I'm so sorry. I'm probably going to just refer to them as like the 2 girls who went missing. Emmy, I think I can like remember because she's our main character pretty much, but like her dad is also like a detective or officer or whoever, maybe chief. I can't remember at this point. It is a small town vibe, and on top of that, like so many things are named after the Cliftons, which is this Emmy's last name. the Clifton family, apparently when they settled there, they stole the land and are not really great people. Like, they own everything, and a lot of people, you can kind of tell in this town, kind of are just like, oh, the Cliftons, kind of like that vibe. And she's already had to reassure one person that, like, I'm not those Cliftons. Like those Cliftons stole what they have, and me and my father, we've like made our lives for ourselves from the ground up, and blah 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 blah. So like, still already making me think that, like, at some point there's going to be something targeted about the fact that she has that name. But besides that, I've only made it up to a part where her dad told her, like, you're gonna have to talk to, I think her name is Hannah, who is the mother of one of the girls. And she lost it on her, like, was screaming at her. And I have the audiobook, so like the narrator's like screaming. I'm like, I feel like I'm getting yelled at, like scolded, just about like not being there for her. And now look at her, and like, you were so worried about, she's saying like, you're so worried about this guy, but I don't know yet. Maybe I missed it. I don't think I did, but maybe I still have to figure out who this guy is. I forgot his name already. I don't know if it's like a guy that she was dating at the fireworks that night, and her friend asked her to check in on her daughter, or like what the case may be, but she's just like, because of this guy, my daughter's gone. You could have been helping her and caring about her more than him, and my baby wouldn't be God knows what right now. Yeah. It's pretty intense, and if I know anything about Karin Slaughter, is that she does not hold back, and she's pretty brutal and cutthroat. So I know I'm in for quite a time, and it always feels like you're kind of like reading a Criminal Minds episode or something like that. They're pretty fast-paced, and that's why I'm kind of like, I could probably finish this audiobook today, because they're intriguing and so fast-paced that you really feel like you're stuck in it and wanting to know what's going to happen, kind of like an episode. So yeah, I'll check back in, and then we'll wrap up this video.
William Morrow and Harper Audio present We Are All Guilty Here, a novel by Karin Slaughter.
Hello and welcome to the Midnight Society Book Club. Let me be official here. We are gathered here today to submit for the approval of the Midnight Society. We Are All Guilty Here by Karin Slaughter. This is North Falls #1. It's the first book in a new series. And in case you are unaware of the book club, we are a free online bi-monthly book club. It costs you nothing to join, and we read thriller, horror, feminist fiction, and you just read the book. You meet us back here for the live show. We talk about it. We chit-chat. It's a good time. That's all there is to it. It's free. And the most up-to-date information is going to be found on my Instagram at the Midnight Society Book Club. So, and the live shows are always here on YouTube. I am your host, Elizabeth. This is my lovely co-host, Jessie, from Reading with Jess. And I'm going to ask her to tell you about herself in just a minute. But before then, I want to go over the rules for the book club, as far as like indoctrinating books into the book club. We have some little rules, and that is I get a vote. My co-host, Jessie, gets a vote. And then the audience gets a vote. I always post about 24 hours before the live show on the Instagram, and that gives y'all an opportunity to put in your votes as well. And then the average among those three is going to make up the total. And if that is 3 stars or higher, then it will be indoctrinated and live on in notoriety forever. So, and all of that's just for fun, honestly. But like, yeah, that's the deal.
I am finally back to talk about We Are All Guilty Here. I believe that's the title. I'll throw it up again. I don't have a physical copy. I've literally just listened to this as audio, which has been perfect. I had a very crazy busy weekend. I have a new nephew. It has been quite a time here, between like traveling to there and being present, like during, her labor and all of that. Like, I had time on the road to listen to the audiobook and, you know, on the way back, and it's just been, there's been a lot going on. So I haven't been able to film, but I have still been reading. So this book from Karin Slaughter, from where I left you guys off last, if I would have read just a little bit more, I think I left off talking about how our like main character Emmy had kind of chosen this guy over her friend's daughter, who was kind of like seeking some type of like help or something or other. If I would have listened a little bit further into it, I would have realized that that man was actually like her husband, and she would go on to have a relationship with him. Makes you understand a little bit more where the character is coming from, but it's still just a sad situation. And that's honestly what I could say about this book. It's a very sad situation. And you know, I do love my girl Karin Slaughter. I know you guys can't really see, but if you look on this bottom shelf, I do have quite a few of hers. And I am still like on board to finish out her Grant County and then go into the Will Trent series as well. And I agree with a lot of others that it's really cool to be able to be in a time where we can read her new release 2025 and it be the start of one of her epic series. I think that that is the most exciting part about this experience. But with that being said, I am kind of unsure on where I'm landing with like if I will be continuing it, because although it wasn't bad, I had a rather great time with it. I'm giving it a 3-star. I don't know how much it really is going to stick with me or how much I'm really going to care to know more about the characters in this type of series. And maybe it is because I'm so wound up in the Grant County and those characters and wanting to know where it goes in the Will Trent series that I'm just kind of like, you know. But I will say, even though I do like the Grant County series so far, it's honestly not like a top favorite of mine. It's not like something that like I recommend a lot or that I talk about a lot. I think I've given all of them 2 and 3 stars so far, so it's not like anything groundbreaking for me, but as somebody who used to love consuming like shows like Criminal Minds and CSI Miami and Law and Order SVU, things like that, like, yeah, I really like her writing. I really like her books, but it's just kind of like one of those things, kind of like James Patterson, where like I really have to be in the mood for that type of genre, that type of like topic, where now as an adult, not a teenager, I'm more so like when I get in the mood for that, I'm in the mood to read it versus watch it. And when those times hit, James Patterson, Karin Slaughter, stuff like that, they really do it for me. I like it, but they're never like all-time favorites. If anything, they're palate cleansers. They're perfect for the mood read, but maybe not necessarily like my top books of the year. That being said, I think if you're a crime fiction reader, I think that this is another one from Karin Slaughter that you're probably going to eat up and love. And it was quite a jarring time to start a series, that's for sure. And I'm going to tread lightly here because this is definitely a book like many of hers, if not, I think all that I have read from her. I said she doesn't hold back. She really doesn't. Please check your trigger warnings if you want to skip ahead. We're at the end of the video, so thank you so much if you do need to just like exit now. The things that you could be triggered by in this book are very heavy topics and not to take lightly. And while I say that, and I say like, for me, it could also be, I had a hard time with this one because of the heavy topics. We're talking about SA, we're talking about darker than that, we're talking about children being involved. It really is a mix of things, and the repeat that we see in Karin Slaughter books a lot are these like small southern towns who have a lot of problematic people, and I feel like at the heart of it, the metaphors that she is throwing in, the message she's trying to get across is obviously like how wrong this is, and sadly how accurate it can be. And that part of it and that part of her as an author, I love. She's one that doesn't hold back on like throwing like the politics and her views and morals and stuff like that into her books, and I really appreciate that. But at the same time, it can be very hard. It can be very triggering, very jarring to read some of these things, and this one was extremely heavy. And I do a harder time with child stuff than I do with regular. All of it is, hard, to take in. But as a trigger for myself, I have a harder time with like the child aspects of it. It kind of takes me out of the story a little bit. So I do feel like that could be part of a factor. Again, I appreciate the messaging and the things that she is trying to do with her books to write in a way that is jarring, but still like getting the point across and making it very, uncovering like these bad, corrupt people for what they're doing and doing something about it. I mean, it's crime fiction. I just feel like she does it in a very unproblematic way of making sure she's not okay with these people. I feel like out of all of the authors that I have maybe dabbled in or tried of crime fiction, she's been one of my favorites because of her writing style, and because you can just tell that she knows these are tough subjects. She knows that these are triggering things and these are hard things that she's putting in her book. And I feel like she does them in best way that you possibly can in these cases. From where I left you guys off earlier, I feel like that kind of set up the story for you. But another part of the book, besides like, the intense subjects, is I felt a little jarred by the fact that like right after I left you, we had like a 12-year gap. It literally fast forwards 12 years, and a lot can happen in 12 years. And when you're writing the first book of a series, I found that to be rather interesting way to go about it. But I also found it did take me a little bit out of the story because of that, because I like the idea of cold cases and stuff. Absolutely. I think that it's a cool concept for the book because, it's another real life thing where there's so many cases that sit there and stay cold, and like it eats at those people, detectives and everybody who's worked on the cases for years and years and years until they're solved, or sometimes they're never solved. But also the families that just have to live with the unknowing, the no closure, nothing. That I liked that aspect of it. But at the same time, when you're starting a book series, I think concepts like this would be so much cooler to maybe have this as like the first case or something intertwined with something else, to where maybe by the end of the book, yes, we solve something, but something is still a cold case and hanging there. And then much later down the road in the series, you can end up intertwining that with like a future case and being like, it's finally solved, I think as like a reader who would stick with the series, I think that would be a much more appealing outcome, and just being like, finally we know. And like you're I feel like there's more of like that cliffhanger there to also be like, I can't wait for the next book. I wonder if it's going to be the next book we find out. I wonder if it's going to be the next book, that I kind of wanted that a little bit more than what we got. And honestly, this book just really felt like there wasn't a single good person in this town, and all of these men were just horrible, vile people. And it was just like, at this point, case closed. Throw all of these people in jail. Like, problem solved after that, because every single person they looked into, like, oh, maybe they didn't do it, but they have something that they're guilty for. And I get like the title, we are all guilty here, but like, Jesus, it was so like, I was sick to my stomach just over and over again. It was just like, at this point, I don't even care who did it. Lock them all up. Like, I don't care. Lock them up, throw away the key, book's over. Anyways, I'm landing at a 3. I think it was an interesting book club pick, and I am kind of happy she chose it, because I probably would have put off this book for many more years if it wasn't for her picking it. So yeah, I'm glad that it motivated me to read it. Again, I'm not sure. I think as of right now, I'm not continuing the series. I will probably go back to Grant County to finish it out, but maybe in the future. Fast forward to like next year when the next book comes out, and I'm just like, all right guys, I'm reading it. Anyways, thank you to Elizabeth again for hosting another incredible book club. I actually almost officially say I've completed all the reads for the Midnight Society. I'm very close, so that's exciting. And I think that sort of wraps up this video. I feel like since I've been gone and doing so much that I'm kind of like all over the place and just like, does this make sense? But really it's just end of the year cramming and trying to catch up on some book clubs. But I hope I was able to highlight them for you or maybe get you excited to join one of them for your new year if you enjoy book clubs. Definitely go check them all out. I will have them in my description box, and I'm looking forward to finishing out as much as I possibly can before the end of the year from the other ones that I haven't gotten to from each of their clubs. But also I'm so excited to see their book picks for next year and to see which ones make the cut for my next year's reading journal. I definitely don't want to overwhelm myself with them like I have the past previous years, so I might dwindle them down a little bit. All in all, I had so much fun with this video though, and I feel like I read some really good book picks, and that is like very exciting for me. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please let me know if you've read any of these or if you participate in these book clubs, or maybe if you're going to in the new year. I would love to know, and I will see you guys in my next video.
My feelings are so fuck auto-correct, and I've been doing fine except the stabbing pain up in my chest, and I'm stuttering. I'm done, but now you're gone again.